one of our possible men of the year. This was 2020. They too thought that he'd already been honored. So together we pulled out the yearbook, and sure enough, no name of Richard Hovannisian. At that point, I knew we had our honoree. There was also another reason why Richard's name was so familiar to me, and I'll get into that a little bit later.
Oh my God.
So it was a quick series of emails to Richard, and we were all set for our grand convocation in July of 2020. So now what happens? COVID. Throws a wrench into all of our plans. Okay, Richard, we'll hold off until 2021. And he says, no problem. So 2021 comes, and as we all know, goes. No grand convocation. So at this point, I'm getting a little frustrated. I tell Richard, maybe we can come down to Los Angeles and film us presenting the award. A few more conversations back and forth, and we decided to hold off for one more year. For sure, 2022 will be the year. So after 3 years of planning, we finally find ourselves here tonight. Bear Chavez. Our man of the year is one of those individuals whose name is known to all of us. Not just to us, but evidently Microsoft too, because I was typing his name on my computer and I spelled it with only one N, and it auto-corrected it to his correct spelling. Microsoft seems to know. Dr. Richard Hovannisian is the past holder of the Armenian Educational Foundation Chair in our modern Armenian history at the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, and a presidential fellow at Chapman University. A native of Tulare, California, he received his BA and MA degrees from the University of California, Berkeley, and a PhD in history from UCLA. A member of the UCLA faculty since the 1960s, he organized both the undergraduate and graduate programs in Armenian and Caucasian history. Selected as a prestigious Guggenheim Fellow, he published more than 30 books, including Armenia on the Road to Independence and The Republic of Armenia, in 4 volumes in Armenian, Russian, Farsi translations, 6 volumes on the Armenian genocide, and 15 volumes on historic Armenian cities and provinces of the Ottoman Empire. Dr. Richard Hovannisian was a member of the initial steering committee of the Armenian Assembly of America, 6-time president of the Society of Armenian Studies, chairman of the board of the Armenian Monument Council in Montebello, and associate director of the UCLA Near Eastern Center. He has received many honors for his scholarship, civic activities, and support of individual and collective human rights, including medals and encyclicals from His Holiness's Karakin I, Karakin II of the Holy See of Echmiadzin, and Aram I of the Great House of Cilicia. In 1990, prior to Armenia's independence, Hovannisian was elected to the Armenian National Academy of Sciences, becoming the first social science living abroad to be so honored. He was subsequently awarded the Moses Khoraratsi Medal by the Republic of Armenia and the Mashtots Medal by the Republic of Nagorno-Karabakh, Artsakh. Most recently, among a number of other awards, he received the title, the Medal of Prince of Cilicia from His Holiness Aram I, the Henry Morgenthau Medal from the Genocide Museum Institute in Yerevan, and commendations from the California State Legislature and the City and County of Los Angeles, and the Facing History in Ourselves. The Shoah Foundation, the Magrubian Center for Human Rights of Claremont McKenna College. Dr. Hovannisian has recently released his latest book, Armenian Communities of Persia, Iran, History, Trade, and Culture. Richard Hovannisian recently lost his wife of 65 years, Dr. Vartan Hovannisian. And just as a side note, this was my second connection, that Richard's wife's sister, Nazik, was my 6th grade teacher. And 2 of Nazik's sons are here today, Harar and Mahe, so thank you for attending tonight. Richard has 4 children, Rafi, firstborn foreign minister of independent Armenia and founder of the Armenian Bar Association. Armin, a longtime legal activist, and he's here tonight with his wife Elizabeth. Ani, a documentary filmmaker. And Garo, an attorney, and has been blessed with 14 grandchildren and 1 great-grandchild. As I mentioned, Ani was with us tonight. How many of you saw her documentary, Hidden Map? It was a moving documentary where she visited the village of her grandfather outside of Kharkiv. Now, can anybody tell me what was the name of that village?
I can.
Not you. Who can tell me the name of that village?
Let her tell you. Let her tell you.
What was the name of the village? Bazmashen. Yeah. So other than Richard's father, Casper Hovannisian, and Kurt Kerkoyan's father, Aaron, is there anyone else here tonight whose family came from that small village of Bazmashen?
No.
Wait a minute, but you're my sister. Oh, wait, you're my son. Yes. And my grandfather, Zach Atamian. Richard, that was so small of a village. There must be some relation to Kurt Kerkoyan. I haven't quite figured this out, but it was a village of about only 400 homes, so it was pretty small. So that was the other reason why Richard's name came to mind, because I grew up as a small child in my grandmother's house, seeing his mother and father over there all the time. So when I mentioned Dr. Hovannisian's name to my Abba Tivan back in 2019 as our Man of the Year, it was almost quiet. They looked at me and said it was just too obvious. It even came up again today in our meetings. I think one of our past commanders, Levon, said, "Are you sure he's got the book? I thought for sure he was honored somewhere in the past." No, we were sure. In discussing our nominee with Professor Barlow Demergerditchin, head of the Armenian Studies program at California State University, Fresno, who described Richard as one of the founders of Armenian studies. Some might say the father of Armenian studies, but many of his students are now leaders themselves in Armenian studies. So maybe that makes him the grandfather of Armenian studies, but his position in the world for these many years, I kind of think of him more as the godfather of Armenian studies. Those of you that were in the lecture a few days ago with Tanar Aksham, you remember that Tanar showed a picture with 2 individuals on there. He showed a picture of Vahakan Dadrian, and he showed a picture of Dr. Richard Hovannisian, and he described them as icebreakers. An icebreaker is that ship that moves through and paves the way for other people. And it is with that I'm so pleased this year, finally, to recognize as our 2022 Knights of Vartan Man of the Year, a teacher, a scholar, a historian, Dr. Richard Hovannisian.
You're so articulate and entertaining. Thank you very much.
Very entertaining.
And you forced me to say, I wasn't even thinking of it, ushlini nushlini. They say, let it be late, let it be sweet. And so,
late but
sweet. Thank you very much. Kirashanor Serbazanhai, Vartanats Harkeli, Vartanats Aspedner, Yevtustraner. My dear fellow honoree, Ann Karagosian, whom I love dearly and who is a wonderful leader that I'm glad to be associated with. I feel very, indeed fortunate, lucky, that life was such for me that things happened that should not have happened. And I probably should not have left an 18-acre vineyard in Tulare to go on to become something in a university. And especially to teach for 50 years, eager students, and of the Armenian students in particular, to make them aware of and have a sense of the long path that their people have followed for thousands of years to the present. And their happiness and satisfaction with it gave me and gives me the most contentment. So there is nothing that I would have chosen more than what I had. It is sometimes said that scholars are in an ivory tower. But I assure you that those of us who were pioneers in Armenian studies in the United States were not in an ivy tower, but were on the front lines of battle. Because after the genocide, the Near East was divided into an Arab world, into a Persian world, into a Turkish world, and reluctantly into an Israeli world. There was no room for Armenians, and Armenians were an annoyance to those other groups that had been established and felt nervous and uncomfortable with attempts of Armenians to make their presence known and their history known. So it was a long battle. Mr. Adams mentioned the Society for Armenian Studies, of which I was an initiator. And before that and after that, the Armenian Monument Council here, where we had to fight a whole room full of Turks who had been brought in with the Turkish council to oppose the erection of the Armenian monument in Montebello. And on the battles have gone against denialism that has achieved a degree of sophistication through non-Turkish scholars that could not have happened with the poor publications of Turks. And perhaps for me, the crowning satisfaction was that in 1997, the Turkish government and certain members of the UCLA administration secretly negotiated a contract to give to UCLA $3 million to establish a chair in Turkish studies with conditions as to who the chairholder was to be. That is a person with close connections with Turkey and Turkish scholars, and who would advance the Turkish agenda and propaganda. And perhaps that was my crowning moment, when after a very long argument, on a split vote of 18 to 17, for the first time, the university is turning back $3 million. And thanks largely to young intellectual scholars, as opposed to the older fogies who didn't care. Money is money. It's been a battle, and a good battle. And I think that I was recently interviewed for a podcast, and the boy who interviewed me said, you know what, I want everyone who I interview read a favorite poem at the end of the podcast. And I said, well, I don't have any favorite poems. I'm not a poet. I don't read much poetry. And then I thought of, I don't know why, Macbeth's soliloquy. saying, out, out, brief candle, life's but a walking shadow. A poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. After I said that, I stopped and I said, wait a minute. I think I may be wrong. I think we all strive to make a difference, that we all strive to believe that when we leave this world, we've done something good. And I thank you for this honor and for your good, because I know all the good work you're doing in education for Armenia in these terrible, terrible times that have crushed our spirit for 2 years. But we have learned in the long history of the Armenian people that we shall remain. Thank you.